I get eager staring at the endless aisle of sewing machines online and wondering if you're about to drop a serious chunk of cash on something that will sit idle in the garage. You've probably read a couple of glossy ads that promise industrial power and perfect stitches, but the real question is whether this machine actually fits the kind of work you do, and whether it will pay for itself in the time you spend on it. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The JUKI LU1560N is marketed as an industrial-grade, 2-needle walking foot machine, and the promise is that you'll get the speed and reliability you need for heavy-duty fabrics without having to learn a whole new system. Let's break down what that means for a small shop owner, a hobbyist who's serious about quilting, and anyone else who's trying to avoid buying the wrong tool. First off, the machine's biggest selling point is the walking foot. That little mechanism synchronizes the feed of the top and bottom layers of fabric, which is a lifesaver when you're working with thick denim, leather, or multiple layers of canvas. In the real world, that translates to fewer puckering issues and a smoother glide when you're stitching a heavyweight tote bag or a pair of leather boots. I've seen seamstresses who spend hours on a standard flat-foot machine fighting the fabric, and they end up with uneven seams that need to be redone. With the LU1560N, the fabric is essentially carried forward by 2 feet instead of 1, which means the feed is more consistent and you can maintain a higher stitch speed without sacrificing quality. Speaking of speed, the industrial clutch motor is built for 110V operation, and it can crank out stitches at a pace that would make a home-use machine look sluggish. In practice, that means you can finish a batch of workwear shirts in roughly half the time it would take on a domestic model, which is a tangible cost saving if you're paying for labor. That said, the speed advantage only shows up if you have a project that actually requires it, like producing a run of jackets for a boutique or quilting a large wall hanging. If you're just mending a few seams on a weekend, the extra velocity may feel unnecessary and could even become a source of noise that makes you think twice about pulling the trigger. Another practical consideration is the machine's footprint. The unit dimensions are sizable, but not outrageous for a shop that already houses a couple of larger tools. I've seen small business owners fit the LU1560N into a corner of a 1010-foot workspace without too much hassle, especially when they mount it on a sturdy workbench. The key is to leave a little breathing room for the fabric feed and to make sure the power cord can reach your outlet without being stretched. If you're limited to a cramped apartment sewing nook, the walking foot's extra width and the 2-needle head could be a deal-breaker simply because you won't have the clearance to maneuver bulky projects. Who should consider this machine? If you're a commercial tailor, a leather worker, or a serious quilting enthusiast who frequently handles thick or layered materials, the LU1560N can become the workhorse that lets you maintain consistency across orders. Its 2-needle setup means you can do a straight stitch on one needle while the other handles a decorative or reinforcing stitch, which is a real time saver when you're building sturdy seams on bags or outdoor gear. The machine also shines for anyone who needs to produce a high volume of stitches quickly. Think uniform manufacturers or small-scale apparel lines. On the flip side, if your primary projects involve lightweight cotton, simple home decor, or occasional repairs, you'll likely find the machine overkill. The learning curve for the walking foot isn't steep, but there is a mental adjustment to feeding fabric at a faster rate while watching 2 needles dance in sync. Beginners who are still mastering tension and thread path on a single needle machine may feel overwhelmed, and they risk creating tension issues that are harder to troubleshoot with 2 active needles. In that case, a good quality domestic machine with a detachable walking foot might give you the flexibility you need without the upfront investment. Now let's talk about the practical strengths that show up after you've unboxed the thing. The first thing most users notice is the reliability of the clutch motor. Unlike belt-driven home machines that can slip after extended use, the industrial motor holds its torque even when you're running at top speed for an hour straight. That means you can set up a production line and leave the machine running without constantly checking for stutter or loss of power. The second strength is the ease of thread change on the 2 needles. JUKI has kept the threading path relatively straightforward, and once you get the habit of loading both needles simultaneously, you shave minutes off each setup. For anyone who does multiple colors or thread types in a single project, that efficiency adds up quickly. The weaknesses are more subtle but worth mentioning. Because the machine is designed